All day, all over the city, every person wanders a different city, writes Boston's beloved literary denizen, hard to say, and seemingly permanent U.S. poet laureate Robert Pinsky. Tonight, we have an opportunity to encounter and celebrate 6 different incarnations of that city, a city that Adam Zagajewski has called the American capital of poetry. Boston Originals, as you can probably tell from your printed program, doesn't confine itself to a narrow set of institutional allegiances, formal inclinations or proclivities, or the rigidities of a zip code. Under the rubric of Boston, readers tonight represent a wide range of aesthetic, performative, political, conceptual, even sexual penchants in our midst. Haptic, trance-induced, neo-transcendental propensities, and the list goes on. And they hail from Maine, Gloucester, even Nigeria, in the form of this year's Harvard Scholar at Risk, Chibụìhè Obi Achịmbá, who will inaugurate the night and for whom this event will serve as a warm and welcoming reception. What's Bostonian about the great gamut of their voices and visions? I'll leave you to glean. We found in this series not to impose a uniformity upon the poets, but to recognize and archive the diversity, and forgive my bad pronunciation tonight, the diversity and urgency of their work. Tonight is no exception. It promises to be a dynamic reading by a distinct array of poetic innovators from around the region. Please welcome our first set of readers and revelers, Chibụìhè Obi Achịmbá, Kristen Case, and Amanda Cook, who will read in that order.
Hello? Okay, thank you so much. And I actually felt it was going to be very Bostonian tonight, but it's really cold outside, and yeah, it keeps reminding me that I'm only about a few months here. But thank you so much for coming, and for Christina and Mary for creating this beautiful space and inviting me to read my poetry tonight. I'll read from my chapbook, a few poems from my chapbook, and also read from my ongoing projects. Thank you so much. For the wounded. Lord, touch what you have made. Come unhinged like a door, the fiberglass of light. Let nothing stop the tremor of your instrument. The blood flowing is prize, is first fruit, is foreskin. Lord, plant a garden in the sky where you burrow the rib. Stitch the suture in your name. Water the agony, the scorched fields. Let every stone taste nectar and know beyond thirst. Lord, I was something before you emptied me of language. Before you pushed your tongue into me, your veins, vineyard of tissue. Lord, for the filter and the windmill, this coat, this slouching, emptied of meat. Pour vinegar where a lava burrows. Make way in a knot called thick. Lord, you were thirsty and broken, which is why you made me on the 6th day with a hook in my throat, pulling dust to glean, to seduce even bees, which is why you hauled me into light, unspool me from the tail, rain thrust into sunlight, burnished or to burn, if flames be flesh enough to cover a fractured ligament. Thank you so much. The next poem is titled, it's an elegy written for a friend, titled The Suicide of Young Idris. Tell me it was the thirst, as a flower opens its mouth to gulp air, as it defied the glass to gather sunlight in his palms, as it spills like pollen in his palms, as it spills like pollen on the trees, on the land grasses below. His palm, where the nail has gone through. His palm, where the blood has caked into an ache. Tell me it was the window, as he birds into the July sky, the only moment he is safe enough to contemplate freedom, as he picks his sneakers and looks up the long road toward the lighthouse, where every lamp bulb is a boy's body begging to be loved whole. Tell me it was the waves, as he tries to outrun this violence in the presence of water, as he dips himself farther into the throat of the sea, farther into hate, sharp waves slashing him like blade. His skin, which is also gay, his bone, which is also gay, his tongue, which has tasted both love and hate out of the cavernous lips of men. Thank you. Of grief and memory. I'm always lonely in the midst of tongues, keen to note how joy can also mean grief for the one scanning a bottle of rum for sunlight, only to grope his way home in darkness. Because grief, sometimes, is a lover's tender palm, blinding tenderly. In a bar in Kampala, two men lean into each other, unified in lust, both thirsty for one thing, a bristling river to drown in. I've learned to observe these things, how a man's body is both thirst and roiling ocean, how he can drown in a song or December desire. There is a boy who goes to an inn to find his father's body in shots of fireballs. He falls to his knees each time he sees a stranger's feet floating in disco light. He knows how a stranger's body could be home sometimes, a temporary tomb that swallows memory. At dawn, he returns to the same house by the sea, where his father's ghost pours back into coats and becomes waves thirsty for a home. I know to breath is to number the dead, to mourn in measured sequence. But how come memory clings this tight to air like a flotsam, returning to shore again and again, every season of tide? This is the last one from this chapbook. Prayer for the newly damned. Blessed be the sun baking these bodies into stony testimonies. Blessed be the eye blazing blue unto death. Blessed be the juice of my injuries. Blessed be the nerve that forgoes ache. Blessed be the memory of the boy blooming in the midst of flames. Blessed be his ash, sublime as breath. Blessed be the scalpel that divides bone from bones. Blessed the age sharpened like a parable on the tongue. Blessed be the unclaimed martyrs of flames, the lynched, the lair of immolated girls. Blessed be the writhing bodies, the necks ringed with suffering. Blessed be the misfits whose prophecies cover the earth with petals. Blessed be their bodies, unsealed, unashen by the hours. Thank you. I'm reading from my ongoing projects. There are poems are a little bit different from the ones published in this chapbook. Do I still have more time? Oh. Okay. A man's feast on Spool's visions. When two men lie naked in bed, Is it desire or the lure of violence that moves them? I want to make sense of the shadows crowding the spaces between body and body, to understand what pulls predator toward prey, beyond hunger. The night is white space, a door ajar, not blind, not a sealed wound. At least not in this room of awnings and wax holes, where imagination means horizon, a forever of skies. A man's large fingers are spaced across my face, beckoning an entire universe in. When the curtains flutter, a supermoon sachets in, says, I'm here. Then enter ache, hefty yet futile, baying like a pack of coyotes. A drunk weevil splattering moonbeams from wall to wall, an entire Milky Way spin on its wings. I began with two men, with violence, I know. But between fury and fume, forgive me if I choose the half-burnt things in the ash. I'm trying to find faith again, a reason to joy. When a man divides me, I forgive the injury and reach instead for the language of mercy. Exotic only because it has always been denied me. I think jazz instead, wind chimes, kumbaya. Between a man's two ears, I pause to snag a quick dream. Moonlight on water, on softly aging branches, on water again. I don't know the beast he's trying to contain when he balls and unballs his fist, but I know there is one, and when it kicks, it moves him, lengthens him inside me, a taut guitar string aching toward a certain sound, guttural song, unmooring throat and tongue, entire rib cages ruined by desire. Between two men is a body of water, so much water their intentions are mapped. Now and again, moving cars flare their headlamps and the room shiver with eyes. I'm voluminous, curious, hungry, at sea, to take even the bones, to inch toward a certain shore, to see these and these, even through this misty night, dressing me with bruises. Clenched fists as distant stars, as fluorescent bulbs, even the things which haunt me look luminous. So these are the last poems. I'm so sorry. The last prayer. A half face anyway, a ruin, like a bloody mouth, unworthy. There is something a broken mirror cannot see. Once I looked at these scars and found them too violent to be lonely. I called them cities, Timbuktu, Egypt without the crush of bricks. In the trance, a red wingless bug crawled up the stove. I snatched it into a bowl of foamy water just to find something to save. He speaks into a crack on the wall. Hot bullets miss my ears. My father, who is halfway gone, whose resurrection was ruined by a crooked finger. I ask these of shame, be a stranger, stay out of the door. If there be bones or thorn, if there be gospels according to salt, let it enter even the wound's hidden face. Let the honeyed cotton fall. Let the wind break just small enough to fill the mouth. Let the ocean take, without confessing dirt to hunger. My parents' first meeting in a refugee camp. He saw my mother in the scar city, brown hair and yellow dusted down dress, with lips too cracked to hold down a language. And he said, "You can have some milk." And she said, "Only if the tongue can taste." And he said, "In the war, desire is a bird face to face with glass." And she said, "I'm hungry for a home." And he said, "Even bones thirst." And she said, "My ankle is rusty from waiting." And he said, pick the souls and follow me. And she said, an undone shoelace cannot hold together a burning country. And he said, that is for love and salt water to fix. And she said, I'm looking for my Father in every man. Is he here? Thank you so much.
I haven't even done anything yet. Thank you. Oh, that's so kind. Thank you. I hate doing the awkward microphone thing, making everyone think about how short I am. It's lovely to be here, Christina. Thank you. I grew up in the suburbs, so I feel quite special to be a Boston original, what I always wanted to be. I'm going to be reading from a later section of a long poem called Uncertainty, from a manuscript in progress that is called Daphne. And the poem deals with Wittgenstein's last book, which is called Uncertainty, and lots of other things, as you'll gather. And there are some quotations in it, and they are mostly from Ray Monk's biography of Wittgenstein, The Duty of Genius. And I quote Monk, Wittgenstein, and Wittgenstein's lover, Francis Skinner. And then there's a little discussion of conative and non-conative states, and that comes from G.E.N. Anscombe, who is also a philosopher and Wittgenstein's translator, the first translator, one of them, of Uncertainty. And the only thing that sort of plays out earlier in the piece, so conative having to do with desire. I think that's all you need to know. I spend the morning reading all the pages of Ray Monk's biography of Wittgenstein that have to do with his lover, Francis Skinner. Outside, one of the hemlocks is bare as though stripped, except for a few sparse limbs at the top. Its skeletal branches orient toward me as though reaching out while trying to appear not to be reaching out, or like the tributaries of rivers on a map. Monk. Francis's letters were kept by Wittgenstein and were found among his possessions after his death, and from them we can reconstruct how the relationship developed. Wittgenstein's letters to Francis were retrieved by Wittgenstein after Francis's death and were presumably burnt. In Uncertainty, Wittgenstein attempts repeatedly to illustrate that it is a false move in a language game to say that you know or believe something that it is in fact impossible for you to doubt. What we call knowing or believing bears a particular relationship to doubt feeling. He is at pains, however, to remind us that our inability to doubt something does not necessarily make it true. Wittgenstein. Certainty is, as it were, a tone of voice in which one declares how things are. But one does not infer from the tone of voice that one is justified. I am interested in the untrue thing whose truth you can't doubt, in ways of being wrong that cannot be detached from the foundation of the language game, and thus suggest that you might be wrong about the fabric of being. It is nonsensical to say that I might be wrong about the fabric of being, but that is what I mean. Francis to Wittgenstein. I think a lot about our relation. Are we going to act independently of each other? Will I be able to act independently of you? Wittgenstein, in coded remarks. Oh, I forgot to say, he also kept a kind of private journal in a code in his philosophical manuscripts. So the philosophical manuscripts are written in regular German, and the diary is written in a code, a very simple alphabetic code. Wittgenstein in coded remarks. Lay with Francis 2 or 3 times, always with the feeling there was nothing wrong in it, but then with shame. Have also been unjust, edgy, and insincere with him, and also cruel. I am trying to get closer to the feeling of abjection in its relation to conative states. This has something to do with the question of what is possible between people. What is possible between people has to do with the fabric of being that I might be right or wrong about, and also has to do with politics. After the rain, the darkest shadowed green in the layers of shadowed and half-shadowed leaves out my studio window is nearly black and hurtles through the generalized months into my particular mouth. I return to the repeated also in the coded remarks about Francis. Have also been unjust, also cruel. Monk, the biographer, calls him Francis rather than Skinner, though he mostly uses last names to refer to Wittgenstein, his colleagues, and his students. Probably there is a non-conative explanation, but I imagine that this is a slip that suggests a feeling of tenderness on the part of the biographer to the object of Wittgenstein's simultaneous desire and aversion, an unregistered and, in any case, totally unrealizable wish to console. Monk. What is striking is the juxtaposition of his account of their lying together with observations of his lovelessness toward Francis, or perhaps what he is expressing is his fear of becoming loveless. In 1938, Wittgenstein translated with a student named Yorick Smithies portions of the mystic play Raja, often titled in English King of the Dark Chamber by Tagore. The king to whom the title refers is never seen by anyone. According to Monk, the play concerns the awakening, or one might say the humbling, the subjugation of the king's wife. Is it me? No, okay. Surely it's not me. Okay. I make a sketch for a glass structure called Lovelessness, enclosed in a second glass structure called Fear of Lovelessness. I look at photographs of House Wittgenstein online. Now I have a terror that it's me. Okay, no, it's not me. I make a sketch for a glass structure called Lovelessness, enclosed in a second glass structure called Fear of Lovelessness. I look at photographs of House Wittgenstein online. Wittgenstein in coded remarks. I thought it would be good and right if Francis had died and thereby taken my folly away. Riding my bicycle back to my desk, I noticed the single meandering track in the dirt made by my bicycle early in the day. It is startling to be confronted with my past self in this way. When I feel that another person's desire for me carries with it the secret wish that I were dead, is this a mistake or a mental disturbance? Whose? In the glass house of lovelessness, there is a dark chamber. I read art books, look at pictures of art, consider Francis. A numbness attends certain conative states. These are several occasions and the same occasion, a winnowing of shimmering difference into the single darkness, dispersion of sensation into the surround. The trunk and branches of the almost dead hemlock are stark, lichen-marked. It has to do with the feeling of being wished dead. Francis to Wittgenstein. I feel very unhappy that I should have given you cause to write that you feel I am away from you. It is a terrible thing that I have acted in a way that might loosen what is between us. It would be a catastrophe for me if anything happened to our relation. Please forgive me for what I have done. I know that it is likely a matter of translation, but I am moved by the urgent simplicity of the phrase, I feel very unhappy. I cannot imagine uttering this phrase. I can type it, however, with little feeling of self-consciousness. I am only depressing the small black squares on this mark-making machine. I feel very unhappy. Mornings, you feel the little winter inside of August. In the trees, a single hermit thrush bodies the air in sound, which penetrates as if to loosen what is between. I consult the weather of the future and check to see what my device has collected while I slept. Through the canopy, the early sunlight finds the trunks of 2 maples, which radiate accordingly through the comparative gloom. Wittgenstein retracts the wish that Francis had died in subsequent sentences. Though, of course, it may only be an accident of translation, I am interested in this strange grammatical formulation, as though Wittgenstein were conjuring not a single imaginary event, but a whole imaginary world in which Francis had died. Francis did, in fact, die of polio in 1941. By this time, the biography notes, the relationship had deteriorated. The wanting dead with which I am concerned, if real at all, is of course the unconscious kind, which has to do with one's being a woman and not with one's personal qualities or the personal qualities of the person or persons who may or may not unconsciously and surely only momentarily wish me dead. I consider which of the following, if any, Wittgenstein would allow. No one really wishes me dead. I do not believe that anyone really wishes me dead. I know no one wishes me dead. I may be mistaken, but I do not believe that anyone really wishes me dead. When I am feeling very unhappy, I turn to the pages in my art books with reproductions of paintings by Agnes Martin. In one of these, alternating dark and light gray stripes are overlaid with a grid of small rectangles drawn in pencil, which creates the feeling of infinite repetition in all directions. This painting is called The Tree. After looking at it for some time, the sensation of being wished dead dissipates into image, the book, the table, the screened-in porch in which I am sitting. I touch the tiny black squares of the mark-making machine, which makes a clicking sound, as if to remind me someone's home. Wittgenstein. I do not know how the sentence, I have a body, is to be used. Saplings in the understory, mainly beech, wide-leafed to the sun. Imagine a feeling like a grid, like a canopy. Francis, Monk writes, is remembered by all who knew him as shy, unassuming, good-looking, and above all, extraordinarily gentle. The bicycle tracks multiply in the dirt. Unmoving, they mean movement. I move along them, tracking. The long coast downhill is a wordless, impersonal pleasure, like a painting. He was also utterly, uncritically, and almost obsessively devoted to Wittgenstein. In the sentence Wittgenstein doesn't know how to use, the I hovers above the syntax and its body, claiming possession. I want most to be dispossessed, released into a wordless and grid-like ether. I consider the king in the dark chamber and wonder if humbling and subjugation are necessary for this escape. The feeling of being wished dead, like the feeling of being thought of as matter, is likely related to an event. The details of this event are so typical and uninteresting, I am embarrassed to recount them. He was twice my age. It seemed romantic and exciting at first. I froze but did not verbally refuse. He moved very quickly. Afterwards, I cried and walked home alone, etc. Light breaks and remakes itself in the almond-shaped beech leaves and the hand-shaped maple leaves and the tear-shaped birch leaves in the canopy, each with its gradually shifting portion of shadow. and its gradually shifting portion of light. They make a reflection like water on the saplings beneath them. Even the stripped bare hemlock is beautiful. All resonance grows from consent to emptiness. That's Rosemary Waldrop. I forgot to say that quote is in there. Francis to Wittgenstein, March 25th, 1934. I long to be with you in any open space. I repeat this sentence to myself in my mind, imagining any open space, imagining a desire so extraordinarily gentle. I wonder where Francis is buried. Last night's rain erased my bicycle tracks, so riding to the studio, I have the sensation that time has started over. I do not often think about the event, but when I do, I cannot shake my surprise that I have allowed something so banal to contort my interior life in this lasting way. I have no feelings at all about the person who lifted and handled my body as though it were a dead animal. Why have I stored and reanimated thousands of times the view of myself and my body his treatment of me seemed to signal? In particular, why the feeling of valuelessness, of inert deadness, of being so much disposable matter? I cannot be certain he knew anything at all about what I felt. The words we use for this kind of event depend on variables that are, in this case, uncertain. It may have been a mistake. I do not know how the sentence, "I have a body," is to be used. Whose body? How is it to be used? I long to be with you in any open space. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me here as part of this incredible reading. I'm going to be reading from Letters to Maximus, which is a project I started a couple years ago and I'll be working on for a good number of years. It's a reaction to Charles Olson's Maximus poems. Every poem here is a reaction to the poem with the same name. And, well, here we go. Letter 7. This carpenter who saw Tansy, how could he have been the first to see Tansy take root? Garrett's told me, gently, that I am not so right about Tansy. Not wrong, maybe, but not so right. I expect whomever was here watching Tansy take root before the carpenter arrived knew how to use it. 1. This carpenter who made things out of wood and who owned the land of the cut, and Al Gorman who kept sugar from his sister, and Mason Andrews, are they the cracks, the seams? This commerce, this making and displaying, this keeping sugar from one's sister, this is American savage. 2. I have a photograph of my mother at Whale's Jaw. She is a child. She looks not like she has conquered it, rather like she is visiting an old friend. Her siblings hang from the trees around her. Whale's Jaw is broken now, cracked. Some man or other made a fire beneath her and she split. I heard his name once, the man who broke her. I did not remember it, nor was I surprised. Maximus to Gloucester, letter 11, in which I swing from angry to sentimental. That rock, I once looked over and saw my daughter, not yet 10, climbing the face of that great rock. I didn't yell for fear of startling her. I spent my childhood climbing that rock, but the gentler slope, and most often the stairs carved out of the back. I have called the DPW to have a bench placed at Stagefort Park to mark my father's life. He is buried in West Gloucester, by the marsh past Bond Hill. My mother won't die, can't die. I could get a bench for her anyway. 1. Tragabig Zanda. Our own magic word, our secret history, the street sign all the kids stole until some man came from out of town and tried to give us our own history wrapped up in song and dance. He used that name as a password, stole it, took the cool right out of it. 2, in which my anger returns. It is a difference in values, I suppose, those of us that make note of what we feed the sick and dying. That caretaking is another kind of attention. 3, we cut it close, closed, we close off. I have a fierceness in me I let out when someone I love is hurt. I inherited this from my grandmother, who would mutter "God damn it" under her breath as she walked around the house. You, Captain, can I call you Captain? You have navigated into my waters. Maximus to himself. I have made my life out of the simplest things. A cup of coffee, a ball of yarn, a simple song sung under my breath. My life is full of ideas, laundry baskets, dirty dishes in the sink, a jar of wilting roses. I can almost imagine you standing, saying your words as I stand, holding a basket of clean clothes against my hip, waiting to be dismissed. This morning the air was so cold the harbor was full of sea smoke. It rose around 10-Pound Island, meeting the clouds that hung at the horizon. I drove home knowing there was hot coffee in the pot. This room makes me think of Garrett. So, Maximus to Gloucester, letter 15 revisited. I would be lying if I told you I started this with an open mind. Maybe that's not right. Maybe it was open, but it was set on something in particular, even if I couldn't name it. There are bits of you, of your story, that you had no hand in. I am sure this is true for all of us. There are noises coming from every room in my house. I am going to pour another cup of coffee and make a Manhattan and hope that it will help me continue. 1, I haven't written in some time. I haven't told you Garrett died. There it is. I don't know why I held this, but I couldn't write more until I told you. Like I can't listen to my messages anymore. Haven't listened since the week after he died. Why bother? What am I going to hear? I don't know that I will ever listen again. 2, Smythe and Standish and Smythe. I have been rudderless for months. I don't want another navigator. I want a chart, a sextant, a clear sky. I wonder what I want to be. The thing I keep coming to? I want to be quiet. The seas were calm, the wind was fair, that made me so secure. I am leaving time to grieve. I don't want to rush into some harbor. I have nothing in my hold, nothing to sell on shore. I am hollow. My ribs creak and ache with the waves. That beacon above the harbor, that beacon is gone. I have a piece of glass stuck in my foot. There is no tool better for finding broken glass than bare skin. I don't mind. It reminds me that things break. People break. I break. 3, I don't know what to make of it, what comes of it. I have the broom Garrett gave me when we bought our house. When that broom is out of straw, I don't know what I will do. I can't stop sweeping, although the floor looks like I have. I will finish my coffee and my Manhattan, and I will sweep the floor. 4, oh, poets, you poets. I want to say something here about tenderness, about talking to Annie and Hetty, and about Dale's talk about your letters with Duncan. This may not be the poem for it, but I want to say it now, in case I can't find the tenderness later. I am tender now, sore even. Poets, let yourselves, let each other be tender. Letter 20, not a pastoral letter. 1, how your child awakes, how you have slumbered. Last night too little and lately too well. waking with the first sounds of the birds through the open window, then staying, waiting until my children climb in with me, then soundly again with the sound of their breathing. My mother died between that last poem and this. I am avoiding a lot of things. I can't avoid that. She worked in fabric, my mother. I have a studio full of her fabric. By her death, she had lost every bit of herself, save her body. 2. This poem is a standoff. You have polis in your eyes. Mine are wet with kaiho. I carry your book like a weight to bars, to work, to soccer practice. It takes so long to make the next poem. This is, even as I carry your tome, my poem. 3. When my stepfather cleaned out my childhood home, he had his workers put so many of her things, our things, on the side of the road. A neighbor let me know. Between the lunch shift and dinner shift I was working, I drove to Lanesville, filled my car, and emptied it into my house 3 times. This was years before my mother died. He sold the house to a fish smoker named Sasquatch. I don't think it was his to sell. 4. Our childhood was spent fishing for change. My mother was just starting to have money when she started losing her mind. I have a change purse and another filled with quarters and a $10 bill. I'll treat, she would say, pulling out a change purse as I slipped the waitress my money. 5. Men who keep pawns. I could end this here if I thought the men who keep pawns or use pawns or play that particular game with people could see themselves in it. In the annotated edition of this poem, I will make note of my body, of the way men keep women, of the way my mother was kept alive for years, and how the man who kept her had the authority to do so. 6. He is, you are, a model of a certain kind of success. 2. I am trying these days to make do with less. My life is full of hand-me-down splendor. I could show you where the best blueberries in Dogtown grow. I will keep it to myself. 1. I stand up straight like my back is against the wall. Maximus at Tyre and Boston. Honor? It is October. The sunflowers have dropped their seeds. It is the season of husks, of harvest. We are getting ready for a dark time. 1. I am change averse to change, but it is not my decision. What we do, what is done around us, what is done to us. The world is changing. The world is changed. She is fighting back. Our armor, our honor will not save us. 2. Some expect her face to color with shame. 3. The throwing down of hierarchy has become a hierarchy itself. We still live in the weeds, pick seeds from the ground. We are casting our armor down. Our skin shines in the autumn sun. 2. Tut, tut, Tuttle and the Negress Maria. How dare she? How dare they? How dare we? 3. We carry more than ourselves. Letter 22. Trouble, trouble. Driving Abigail to soccer yesterday, I ran over a screw, got it stuck in the tire. The sound it made as I drove down Centennial was enough to turn heads. I drove straight to Linsky's, stood there as a tattooed man removed the tire, rolled it away. In 10 minutes' time, it was back on the car. 1. What we make when things go wrong, how we make lemonade, or, if you will, limoncello, or just serve drinks in mason jars to whomever we find at our kitchen table. My garden is full of weeds. Still, I go out at dusk and pick from it what I can. This summer, just as the lettuce and mustard had gone to seed, James pulled the lovage, thinking it a weed. 2. I could weave the vines of morning glories, the moonflowers, the warp, and the tall grasses that grow into the neighbor's yard, the weft, circle it with stones from cresses, walk around it carefully, playing a tune or naming the things I should do in my head. Then I would forget it, leave it to change in the autumn rain. This is my coat of arms. 3. Today is trash day. The urgency to get as much out of the house before I sit to write this, even as my coffee goes cold. This weekend's storm will shake the leaves from the trees. I should be outside minding the fires of fall. Men and girls, there is a limit to what I can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chibụìhè, Kristen, and Amanda. We're going to have a brief intermission. We're going to have a Sofra desserts moving back there, and then we'll have 3 more readers.
Good evening. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Mary. Only. Nature hides the most beautiful design, the norm, the anomaly, the rare, the rarest, which is to say, the only. And aren't we each, twins even, only? Still life with orbs. Between the thing and the name of it is a world. And a world behind this world. There is my mask placed on the table. There is the wooden table and the space beneath it. There is an orange on the floor when it should be on the table in the yellow basket meant for oranges, but which contains a cat licking one front paw. What do cats know of oranges? What do birds know of water unless they plunge their beaks into it, breaking some poor fish's sleep? What do fish know of birds except the slash of bill, the sudden flash, the stop? I write about race and racism. So if this were a class, this would be the moment in which we would be reading the trigger warning in the syllabus, if we believe in using trigger warnings. Poem from the real world. I'm on Dorchester Ave when I hear it. Nigger. It is September 28th, 2004. And I haven't heard the word used this way in so long, I'm for some seconds stunned and simultaneously amused in the way an archaeologist might be, coming upon the grotto of some long extinct tribe she's been studying for years to discover their swear words etched in the cave. And almost in the same moment, I say to myself, he's not talking to me, and keep walking. It's a temperate, lovely day, Indian summer asterisked for further study. Blustery, and again it comes, nigger. A nigger comes creeping slowly creeping from its coffin, fettered, measured, lynched, reconstructed, redlined, incarcerated, deconstructed, and resurrected, though I would have preferred negress. More charming and belletristic, gendered, past the purpose and grasp of the wielder of nigger. But I digress and return to the task of inscription with what is available to me, that is, language. There is no poetry here because there is no poetry here. I am recording this to remind myself this wasn't an odd dream, the result of having watched one too many PBS documentaries on civil rights and race relations in the United States, of imagining a young Linda Brown crossing the train switchyard to school, Topeka, Kansas, 1952. I am recording this to remind myself that this did indeed happen on September 28th, 2004, not so long ago, in my beloved Boston, Massachusetts, the US of A. I'm really hot, so I have to fan myself now. Excuse me. True. All right. We eat cold eels and think distant thoughts. This is a delicate way to do it. We eat cold eels and think distant thoughts, said American boxer Jack Johnson, glistening like a fish, to the newsman who asked him why white women were drawn to black men like him. What is it like to eat cold eels and think distant thoughts? What is it like to be a black man who eats cold eels and thinks distant thoughts? What is it like to be a black man who thinks to say, we eat cold eels and think distant thoughts, to a white reporter, early 1900s America, who wants to reduce him to meat, to red, to sexual? Once, in the Chicago Aquarium a long time ago, I met an eel I was told by the label on his large tank weighed 53 pounds and was 100 years old. It looked at me with such a fierce intelligence through the glass and silty water of its address. Its gray, bald head, almost human. Its two lidless eyes. Its small nose holes, and instead of a body below its head, no body, but a tail of fluid form. One great muscle behind ears that were not ears, but also holes. Its whole body beating a slow, chilled rhythm that kept it afloat. And a cool terror shot through me as it watched me watch it, as it followed me through the liquid wall that split our worlds and separated our species. I'll read two more poems. This one's entitled Binary Death. To say death is to raise metaphor's shadow. From the dead would not be good, so from some dark, leap from unlike to unlike, deepening, not frying pan and fire, but fire and then none, none being the opposite of whatever, the there and the not, knotted to, once double, once both, once. I'll close with a poem that has a very bad title. The bad title of Shithole. As some of you may know, last year, the President of the United States became frustrated with lawmakers who wanted to extend protected status to immigrants from El Salvador, Haiti, and some African countries. He asked, why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here? Being myself originally from one of those shithole countries, from Haiti, and teaching the youth of America in my day job, I wanted to enter the president's mind for a moment to really try to understand his point of view. But I didn't want to reside there for too long. And as we know, the TPS question is still not settled. Shithole. I am the interrupter, hijacking your train of thoughts. Call me maldito, cabrón, la bestia. Get on top of me and I'll throw you off after you beg. I'll ride you like a borrowed mule, drive you across the river to sell you up it. Call me coyote. Call me wolf. Call me whatever the fuck animal you like, missionary, priest. Call me Mr. President. I'm all green, a blue gasp. I'm the womb sterilizer, syringe and suction. I'll drown you in a teaspoon of potassium chloride. I was born an abomination. At the age of 1, I crawled out of the Congo dragging my sack full of hands. At the age of 2, I mechanized my scythe. At the age of 3, I wove myself a cape of flies. At the age of 4, I blew the noses off sphinxes and studied the hieroglyphs of your tomb. At the age of 5, I became an angel, cunning, big-eared. At the age of 6, I shot down the moon, then I shot down the sun. I am a nuclear bomb set for noon, the paratext of your nightmare, the translator of your tribulation. I am a constipation, the worm nestled in your colon, the parasite entering your left ear, the sweetest, 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 sweetest liar. The drone of your inner war, the architect of your gas chamber, the poisoner of your water, the multiplier. I am the radioactive sphincter, the unthinkable, intolerable, bleached ass. Thanks.
How does one follow that? I want to thank you all for being here. Can you all hear me okay? Is this working? I am so very happy to be here, and Thank you to all of my fellow poets. All right. Beneath the tree canopy, looking up. The bridge was a chasm below, and below it a chasm, and below it a bridge, and a burned down candle gazing upward. Snow and glass and shadow and forest, and her gazing upward, below, then above and flying upward. Wind caught her arms, as if gazing into the snow falling all around her, as if could lift her, as if until she felt she was flying. Evening changed into black feathers, letters on white wings, undone and becoming, and a new life began. This poem is called Fortingall Yew, and the Fortingall Yew is the oldest tree in Scotland. It is about 5,000 to 9,000 years old, and I dedicate this poem to the poet Stephen Nelson. Okay. Fortingall Yew. Happiness is in the black needles, fallen to wet ground, blown down by the rain, each one a blade, a mind, a star, hidden in the palm of the hand at the end of this gazing of light. A star, no, a memory of a star, shining just a step from the wind's intelligence and into a world unknown, annealed in black leaves and light, a life light, and bright as the thread of, there it is, a flight of black that I cannot see there in the wet branches, undefeated and catching the moon. All right. Moon in Scorpio. It keeps me awake, this early summer moon, with its oversized rabbit about to pounce landscape. It pulls the ocean waves around itself. From what stars have we fallen to meet each other here? Something fast it is, showing through my dream, a pale root pressed against the mind's glass, a whistle sounding in the forest, its light found in a life revealed, and the wind pounds now against the screen, as if to say now, your turn, triumphant in its floating world and its unrelenting light. This is a poem about my brothers, actually. It's called Together Alone and took place by the shore. The swans fly into the wind with difficulty, into the invisible blood of the world. Sinking and rising, there they are. We hid under the pine trees, guarding our faces with our hands, barely sheltered, watching the coming storm as it became something we would always love. Tin pans laid out in the rain to catch their wild racket. Somehow we knew the space in the water, a vastness rising into shape, a lifeline, a sound, fine as a spider's thread caught at the edge of my brother's eye, carried away by the wind. Let's say these are ghosts whirling and buffeted, and this, the branch is furled, and this wind unfurls itself. The sky breaking open is in the body once again, and a lightning crack, the untranslatable easement through which we pass. We were children here once. Look what's become of it. The light turning violet through the webbing of our fingers. I have about 4 more poems to read. Let me think for a moment here. This is a poem that's kind of in progress, and it's about a photographer, a 19th century photographer who is kind of broke the mold. Her name was Anne Brigman. She used to go into the Sierras with her sisters and her friends, and they would do these naked self-portraits among these wind-blasted trees and slabs of granite. And she was a contemporary of Stieglitz. She was kind of Stieglitz's muse before he ran off with George O'Keeffe. And she's truly an amazing photographer, and there was a retrospective of her work in Nevada recently. And this is kind of an ongoing thing that I'm writing. It's called In the Sierras, and I open it with something from Anne Brigman's journal. I wanted to forget everything except that I was going back to heaven in my high boots and trousers and Mackinac coat. All right. Part 1. A mouse crouched in the crook of the tree root, smallest of them all, eyes bright, holds the history and fate of the Sierra Nevada in its pounding heartbeat. An inward song, mouse of faunal threnody that drifts imperceptible with its gaze into these pines now covered in unseasonal snow. A lone, lunging cedar there, and red-tail hawks circling, pine martens chasing each other in the wind-blasted, twisting branches, and the mule deer there in their bloody velvets. Part 2. It is theater, and the gnarled pine is a green room for chickarees and long-eared chipmunks. Anne Brigman would take a stagecoach with her sister toward Echo Lake or Donner Pass. Then they would hike into Desolation Wilderness with her camera and compose lively, bare-breasted portraits against granite and western bristlecone pine. They would stay anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, amid the trees twisted by years of wind, mostly dead, a narrow strip of their living core connecting roots to the handful of live branches. They would crouch in paper crowns or with some wind-blown gauzy drapery, exposure, earth-lighted stillness, and for once a complete absence of fear. Part 3. It is said that after arriving in a new place, we replace the entirety of the water in our bodies with that of the local watershed in just a few days. Geography carries its own energetic signature, scrawled in the body, footprints melting in snow, transformed. The object of the dream doesn't exist. No, it exists always. It existed before me. There and here, the wild, unclaimable crest of the Sierras soars as if in Anne Brigman's encircled arms, as if a part of her body. Part 4. Brigman's negatives were famously perfect. Exquisite miniatures in reverse, painted and backing away into her ineffable vision. But there is one marked with what look like the footprints of mice in frantic silver, skittering away with it. All right. Blackberries. After the long rain, the birds eat what remain of them. The stains and scratches on my hands, petrichor and hot green leaves. I pick few, leaving most for the birds, because they are the whole point now. Riotous, copper-winged, diving into the thorns, their sun forging new ley lines in the sides of hills, threaded together with the summer's helix and thought. Their music as dark as a memory you cannot hear anymore, shrill as the dead. I found the shell in the barn, an old broken conch propping open a window, pressed my ear to it. This poem is filled with bees. I'm a beekeeper now. I've actually been helping out other beekeepers this year, and I just ordered my first colony. So sometime in April, I'm going to have 5,000 bees delivered to my place, and Ross and I are going to be keeping bees together. This is called Honeysuckle and Bees. Fringed red and gold with summer, this honeysuckle vine takes to give. It is all of a sudden a scarlet particulate against the sky, illuminated by backscattered light, straddling the earth's shadow. It is so called, flaming and shaking, the other, either, bleeding from this different year. Its scent could cover the hemisphere, could remake glaciers in the mind's expanse, encompassing night, a soul in the sky, smeared, unensnared, leaving itself filled with bees by morning. Their wings are brand new, intimate artifacts that carry away twice their weight in nectar. Even now, even after all of this, they are the desire path, soaring past the century. I have hope. And this is one last poem. I am a tree. I am a tree, and my back is an expanding root system in the leaf-moving light. Look how this wind picks up now, and my limbs lengthen into saplings, my rib cage, a leaf canopy, a shelter to all, my heart, a chlorophyll geode that feeds birds, transducing metaphor into energy, restoring cyclical tributaries, a trance dance transcendent of memory. One day, I will grow pale leaves from my fingertips. Grow me, and I will grow you. Grace endured, cheek folding into bark. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Oliver. Nice to meet you. Oh. Okay, so first I want to ask if we could all give like a huge round of applause to Mary and Christina for being amazing human beings. And I was trying to think about why we all love the poetry room so much, and about how this is like a classroom with no teachers and no students. Or everybody's a teacher and everybody's a student. Yeah. Okay. Except for Christina. Christina's our teacher, all of our teacher. And also how this is like a community that's based on everybody listening to each other and working as hard as we can to take care of each other. And that's because of the way Christina and Mary model like generosity and imagination and like welcome with every moment that they work to like just build this community, and I'm really grateful to them for doing that. Yeah, you guys are amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna read two poems. One is really short, and one is a little bit longer, but it's not too long. And the first one is called I Was Afraid, and the second one is called I Will See You Again. And the only thing I'm gonna say is I Will See You Again has a quotation from George Herbert, and it's this line, such a feast as men's in length. Okay, and that comes from this stanza from this poem called The Call. And the stanza goes, come, my light, my feast, my strength, such a light as shows a feast, such a feast as men's in length, such a strength as makes his guest. Okay. So I was afraid. A sponge, hollow earth. A sponge was bearing the weight of a hat. The translucent outline of a head or of a seated figure with a child is covering what it opens around. Here, someone said, please take this. That was the time I was afraid to arrive without a gift. I remember my body was covered in a pale pink foam. Okay, I'm going to drink some water because I'm very nervous. I will see you again. 2 fingers touching at the nails. 2 fingers touching the flesh between 2 knuckles, holding both hands under the left arm. Doubled skins, smooth vessel would be to have the sides loosen and cup in over the central cavity oneself. Inaudible vibration, composure, doesn't split and someone changes without fear. Everywhere, how to move. Skin doubling. Doubled skin doesn't separate or flatten. They're so careful. Splitting like the split will stop. A trill, a curved shadow walking away. The face, a voice. Split trill stopping. Doubled composure, split body part skin. It doesn't everywhere would flatten, stop. It everywhere would flatten, straighten. Having to. Smooth and warm. I would like to be protected and cleaned, someone said. Doesn't double. Doubled, having the same contour, wanting the split to stop, everyone to stop, would straighten. 2 fingers, a bifurcating thumb, doesn't flatten. I began to ask to go back to the arrival ending. A pool, a narrow pool spreading, a pool without moving it, untied the side of the gray. I could have. Trill, composure, how do my composure move my what's unchanged? A trill like what's unchanged, splitting. My composure, did it flatten? Did it have to? Having the horizon or body part skin flatten like it would stop doubling waves. Like it would stop not wanting itself to. Having the same contour wouldn't straighten if it's doubled. Drying, trilling without wanting anything to have to, curling, being about to continue. Wanting, splitting like a quantity, away, a dog climbing a ladder, split like it would not want to allow it to, having everywhere it's what's unchanged, beveled like it would be about to double, able in the past. Without being able to want to have the doubled skin separate, lipped, spreading thinnesses, billowing bone swells that split into drops of water, petals, fingertips. Having my composure expand and waver, trilling contour, the back and the front, moving could how to follow, how to stop moving, every position, such a feast as men's in length, hold the twisting, rising head like a quantity. My everywhere. I was 4 years old, had to be held by the ankles. Flag, floor, door, floor, cloud. It's the cleanest way. Bulbs. Bulbs, not stay attached to the shell at the center. Rinsing, coughing, holding, a burning bowl. Shiny, clear closing, can wait to hear my breath. End up. Curved, cold sheets of glass splitting, peeling into thinner sheets without shattering. A single curve and force full of glass in the cold floors, out as though the collapsed in front of my teacher, pushing me back or forward, and I took a step back or a step forward. Pity. Someone turned from, walking away together, turning without speaking, walking without speaking, turning away. Flag floor, door floor, cloud floor, crown floor. Like it would stop me from wanting to be careful. Like having to stop flattening my doubled skin, the arm in the back, straightening the left leg. Had. Doubling trill or curve, how did it have to? I could have, can't crossing, palm up if it's the side, on the side, openings or walking, the pushing extents of the arms. A piece of the flat surface was covering me when I was standing up. I will see you again. Place they couldn't return to. Tasting, waking up, crouching, hovering, walking. Holding, waking up, cooking, having, waking up. No, one by one. Yes, imaginary. Yes, conveyed. Yes, watched a scrolled strip disappear from between the parted lips. It's human love. No, human love. The side that faces the wall, the stop, connects the little gap before the square to a huge broom, the fourth leg. The stretchers and steel. the stretchers, the sides, smooth, asked to accept, to smooth to flap, with a spoon, with a face. Holding everywhere, chair. Held, a straight vertical line bisected the horizon, and the thumb holding the thumb, chairs, a chair, two thumbs. I saw a loop and a little chair like an outline or like a bright pin next to a wheel. Drying and curling, temperature, skin poured into my torso. Able to no X for the Y, the unchanged part, no jewel for the membrane where the membrane doesn't double, no interval, hip, fist, day, stomach, two walls. Hip day, two stomach, hip, two walls. Have only. Hip day, two walls, very far away. Two stomachs, stomach, hips, fists, 2 days, a trill, two. Smooth skin touching a plate, and a cold plate touching two walls, water on the walls. Two chairs touching two walls, water pouring down two warm walls onto two chairs. Two thumbs, two bifurcating thumbs, plumb line. Plumb line couldn't unfold the cloth. The covering was drying in the vessel. Three faces bending, three faces pivoting, three faces pulling, pressing, three faces walking, three faces turning away, wringing it out, didn't as wringing out it, changed the position of my mouth with his leg. Held, where the arm covers the back by the stretchers at 3 points or it curves forward and down at both ends to pull the back of the left arm upright. Doubles the plumb line where someone wants, across the top of the back like a hood or a head, there to be a bright metal coil and parallel vertical lines inching across the empty part. Standing, two fingers standing up or kneeling, the person, the entire, kneeling, bending at the waist to touch the fingertips to the wall, the dry, cool grass or glass, inches of soft touch suspended in air. The wind is burning in a pile of wind. On top of the box trucks, I can see a ball and a wire and orange berries. Almost another voice was lying down and holding something, and I was lying down and holding the sleeping person. Bending at the waist on the flat surface wouldn't have anything to receive. Tying the wire in a knot around the handle, standing up, I was missing my friend. Is everyone perfect? They remembered us. Did you hear him hold his breath to listen? Was it the same? What was I afraid would happen to me? I was afraid it wouldn't be my choice. Turning to be pinned, securing the material volume by pressing down on it with the lips and opening the mouth to speak. Opening the mouth to glide and turn, my head as a child, a wrist, the forearm, an ankle, the waist. I mean, what people have done. Thanks.
I just want to say that I'm really proud of everyone and of my work here. And I'm grateful to feel that way. And I'm grateful for what you said, Oliver. And I was thinking of C.D. Wright and her beautiful line of that poetry is the effect of its and our company. And I thought of all of you tonight. So thank you all of the readers and everyone here tonight. And I want to thank the woman on the floor, Mary Walker Graham, who oversaw the poetry room while I needed to take a medical leave, and she made it possible. So please. So there's a lot of love in this room.